Hey everybody, I am going to attempt to solve this problem for you in a way that I hope you can best understand it. So I am going to struggle with this video a little bit because it is such a complicated problem to solve that I'm going to try to take this complication and simplify it. So what we're talking about is this innocently simple little dynamically colored label that for each label I needed to match up the colors here, as well as I have the same problem that I'm doing trying to solve here in this bar. So as we click through the different rows, you notice that the color changes not only in the gallery, but the color changes for the title bar that is in line with what we have on the filtering, so that we have a color scheme in addition to just a label value. So there's a visual indicator, not just even a word, but a visual indicator to kind of show you. And it's these little nuances that take your apps from being okay and just a beginner power apper to a more advanced power app. And just even though this is a very simple app, it visually, aesthetically makes you just understand what you're looking at so much easier. So to solve this problem, I need to talk about the data in the database. Now, in order to do this, I'm going to do two separate tabs so that we can keep the application front and center and I can show you into the table. I love the way now we can go into tables, we can click on this, and I can click edit data and get to everything here in screen, but for the purposes of the video, I want to have two tabs because I need to be able to go back and forth. So just wanted to let you know that in case you were like, why is he going over here? Or wanted to let you know that in case you thought you had to go over here. It's not the case. You can actually go in and edit your data, edit your table, edit your schema, do whatever you need to do literally in line inside of the app now. But again, purposes of the video, I want to show you this. So I have a custom table in this app, only one. And so here it is right here, process management record. And as we look at the data in the table, as we go through here, the one that we're dealing with is the current status. Okay, so here's the current status. And if we look at it, let's edit the column. And we can see that the data type for this is of choice. Now I can't change it because it's already in place. When you create choices, you have a couple of options. So I want to show you this down here. Sync with, okay? There are two choices. There is a recommended, and most people do this, but let me show you what happens when you do it and when you don't do it. In this particular use case, I have identified that this unique data set I'm not going to use anywhere else. I'm not going to use it in other tables. It's only going to be for this current table, and it only pertains to the data in this column. When all of those criterias come out to be true, then it's okay to override the recommended option to the no option. And when you do it, you can now create a unique and distinct data type that's unique for this table. It's bound to the table. That's important when we get to the code later, that it's bound to the table. All right, so and the reason it's so important because IntelliSense doesn't always help you, and you better know what you've got going on here so that you understand it. So the current status has a space in it too, which adds to a little extra layer of complexity as well. But nonetheless, I want to harp on this key aspect because you need to really understand this. If I lose you here, you're going to be lost for the rest of the video. Choices is what they call a two-dimensional table. It's essentially a list of key value pairs. The key is the label or the name or the label, or you can just think of it literally. I won't use the word key value. I'll use the word label value because it's one and the same. So if you know programming in general, if you know JSON, key value makes sense to you. If you're new, you're a true low coder, you don't know what key value is, then just ignore what I just said and literally look at face value. This is called label value. Okay? For those of you that are key programming, just change out the word label with key and you have your key value pair. Anyway, all it means is that you have a label name and then you have a value associated with that. Now, in the context of how this is used in the application, we don't really care we don't need a value. We just need labels. And so this is where everybody gets so screwed up in their head. And it's unfortunate because the way choices are, they are simply a label value pair. Okay? And this is also called, and this is key, I'm going to give you what the, I guess, behind the scenes understanding of this is. It's called an option value set. Okay, so write that down or commit it to your memory. An option value set. A set means that it's a set or a grouping of rows that's this label value pair or key value pair. And the option means that it's an option set. An option set is a choice list or whatever. This is more geeky programmatic stuff, but you need to at least understand the nomenclature, because when you try to develop this, you're going to run into errors and you're not going to know what these errors mean. So I'm trying to give you the definition to what this stuff is programmatically, or at least from Microsoft's point of view, what it is that they're thinking. Because if you understand that, it's so much easier to try to solve these problems. Okay, so the other thing that's unique and distinct is, again, I chose no, so this is bound to the table, right? And so we can think of current status as a child to its parent, which is the process management record, or better said, the process management record table has the column current status, which in and of itself is almost another table, because we have two columns and we have n number or x number. You've put in it, right? If I add another choice here, now we have yet again another one, and again and again. And so n number just means we have an undetermined number of items that could be in the list. It could be 1, it could be 200, it could be 50, it could be 6. It doesn't matter, right? So now I've got all these extra things here. Let me get rid of them. Or actually I could just hit cancel, that would be fine. But this is important. These values are going to be needed to be known later on, so that when we come back to this, we can programmatically deal with this. All right, so let me now keep this screen the way that it is, because we're going to have to come back to it. Now let's go into this item here and let's look at this code. All right, so this is the working code. I'm going to copy it to the clipboard so that I have it for good measure. I'll also paste it out somewhere else in case I lose it on the clipboard. But if you don't know what switch is, switch just basically means let me take some value, and based on that value that could change, and so in the context of how we're using it here, we're saying is somebody could choose from a list of these statuses, and we don't know which list or status it is, but based on whatever the status is, we want to assign a color appropriate to the status, because we're using this on the fill property. And so you can see I have blue, magenta, green, I don't know what that is, rust or a rusty red or something, and then I have black. And so that's the context for what we're doing here in the code. Excuse me. All right. Now, this is where things get super, super gnarly. To simplify this, I'm going to blow this away because I want you, or actually I'll leave this here. I need you to understand, well, I already got you to understand this earlier. So this option set is a table, okay? And so in order to use this appropriately, we have to treat it as a table. I want to show you what the error is so that you understand this. So we'll just do if this item dot current status equals completed, then blue, sorry, I got some syntax here. Then we want blue, color blue, or black, color black, and that's it, right? And so life looks good, but you notice there's a tiny little squiggly over here, and this is a problem. So let's look and see what it is. And also we notice that the colors aren't working and we don't get any differentiation of color for completed, even though we checked for completed. This minimally, the completed row should be blue, and it's not. It's black. So it's not evaluating it properly, and we can see that it's because of this error here. Now if I move the mouse so that we can read it, incompatible type for comparison. These types can't be compared. Now this is where I was telling you earlier, it's called an option set value. And so, or an option set rather. Right now we're trying to compare the value within the option set. And what that means is, if we come back over to this list, together this full thing, this full choices table, is the option set. The value is quite literally and quite specifically this column right here. It's referring to these values of 100, 101, 102, and the value for completed is 101. So let's come over here and change this out from completed to 101. 101. All of a sudden, magically, something starts to happen wonderful. We're like, oh, wow, okay, so that works. This is great. And so if you were only going to solve this problem using the if statement, then you're absolutely fine. But this is where things get a little kind of crazy. So you could do multiple ifs, so I thought, okay, well, let's just do a switch. Let's do the switch, S-W-I-T-C-H. Oops, yeah, okay. So switch this item current status. So usually what I like to do is this, and then we'll put I don't know why it does that. I want you to look at the IntelliSense too. So the switch value. So the switch value is this item current status. Now remember, this is an option set, which means right now I'm saying whatever this current item is, we should get it at face value. But notice we can't treat it like that because it's really an option set under the hood always. And this is where most people get screwed up. If I look at, let's just jump out of the fill property for this item and let's just go down to the text. So if we look at text, it's this item current status. Let's go back over to this thing again. Here's the label and here's the value. Programmatically, Microsoft has done something under the hood because as it relates to this text property, when you pass in an option value or an option set, it ignores the value. It knows programmatically that if I'm passing in an option set, that it knows automatically to pick the label and not the value, okay? This rule gets completely thrown out the window. Like you wouldn't know this, but it's just the behavior. So we can safely assume that Microsoft programmatically has done something like this behind the scenes. Because with this understanding and expectation and done in ignorance, especially if you're just new to Power Apps, even if you're seasoned and you're trying to solve this problem, it is not evident as to what is going on here. So let's just assume that this is pulling out the label. And so then we just say, okay. And the way the switch statement works is say we pass in whatever the current status is, and we might try to do completed. Let's just do one like what we were doing before. What is it, completed? So we'll do, and if it's completed, then it should be, we want it to do blue, right? B-L-U-E, right? And otherwise, if it's, I don't know why this continues to happen like this. And if it's blue, now what we're going to do is we're going to come down to the next line, and we're just going to do a default color black. And we'll just close out and end the switch statement because that's all it should be. So instead of the if like we had it, I'm simply reproducing what we originally had, and we're going to do color black, right? So if we try to apply it here, something crazy starts to happen. If we hover over this error, it says invalid argument type text. And there's this problem again, expecting an option set value or option value set. And it gives you the helper right here, and it shows you current status, that's the column name, bound to the table process management record. That's how you read that. When you see that syntax like that, or IntelliSense, what it's telling you is the column name, and because it's a choices column that's not global, it's not a global choice. Let me jump back over here. Let me get out of here for just a quick moment. Close the panel. Yes, I want to close it. We can see that there are choices over here on the left sidebar, and if you click on them, you get a plethora of choices. If you don't see choices, by the way, you can come over here to more, find choices in the list, and then pin it. If you still don't see it for whatever reason, come over here to discover all, and come down here to data, and then here's choices, and you can pin it there. But assuming you do have it, that's what this is over here. Now, when you see choices separate from tables, these are the global choices. These are the global list. A lot of these come along for the ride with Dataverse. That's why Dataverse is so powerful. You have all this cool stuff. But this is a global. This means I can set a column to a choices column, but if I choose to sync it, I can use these choices in multiple columns. And if I want to use it in multiple tables, in multiple applications, in multiple whatever, then this is the right choice. This is why it's recommended. But in my use case, I didn't want to use it in any other apps. I didn't want to use it in any other tables. So I chose to just bind it locally to the table. And again, that's why that's so important, because for that particular column of current status, again, I told it no, this is bound to this table, which in this case is process management record. That's why in this error, you're reading current status, and then in parentheses, within the parentheses, you see the table name. And that's just telling you why that is the way that it is. And so hopefully all of this is now coming together for you. So you might be thinking, okay, let's say if it's not looking for that, let's just do 101. And all of a sudden, that trick that we used earlier in the if statement doesn't apply to the switch statement. So let's see what this is. So if we go back and just do, let's look at the error, the beginning part of this error. Invalid argument type text, expecting option set value. Okay, let's change it. Let's do it 100, which was the fix last time in the if statement, and we still get the error. And we get a similar error, but this time it says invalid argument type number, expecting a option set value. And we're like, oh my God, what is going on here, right? And you're like, how am I going to solve this? So then you're like, okay, I don't know what to do. You do a bunch of Googling, you do a bunch of research. Then all of a sudden you realize, oh, okay, in order to get an option set value or option value set, I can never remember which one it is, I'm going to do choices. And I'm going to do, and now this is where IntelliSense is going to screw you. It's trying to suggest the table, the Dataverse table. We don't want the table. We want the column in the table that's bound to the table. So you're going to have to type in the table or the column name. So do current and then hold off. And now let's look and see what we got. Now we can see right here, we have current status and then in parentheses, the process management record. This is exactly what we want, okay? And so we're like, all right, so now we see that we're looking for that particular area. Now we do dot completed, and all of a sudden we're like, okay, this should work, right? And we've got all of this set, except we didn't have the closing parentheses, and now we have the closing parenthesis, and lo and behold, we don't have any errors. Something still doesn't look good because for whatever reason, it's just not applying. And we're like, what is going on here? And so we're trying to click through. We click over here. We see this over here that's completed. But if we come over here, look at IntelliSense. It says data type table. There's no error. The code is 100% correct. And you're still not getting the results. So now you're even more pissed, more frustrated, more whatever, right? I'm telling you, these are the emotions I went through. So this is what I'm trying to tell you is like just absolutely bonkers. And I click on this and I'm seeing a table with all this data type is unsupported. And I'm like, what the hell is going on here? And so it's like, wait a minute, what what can actually be happening here? Because I don't have any errors, and why am I getting, I'm getting the value, which means to me what's coming back when I see value, that tells me that it's bringing back this number. And so it's like, okay, so current status is here, but then I provided this information, and I'm specifically saying the data type and the row within that choices is this, but it still brings back a table for whatever reason. And it's like, what's going on here? This just doesn't make any sense, right? So let's pop in the fix to all of this. I'm going to leave this here so we can contrast and compare. To comment out multi-lines, you simply just do this, and now I'm going to paste in the original code that I know that works just fine. All right, so here we have choices like this, right? So we're like, okay, so we know this is the fix, but here's the kicker. I had to do, because it was a table, remember it was a table? This choices brings back a table, and I was trying to get a specific item out of here, and it didn't quite work. So what I did, you know what? I'm going to try this. I'm actually trying something on the fly. I might have even taught myself something, because sometimes when you walk somebody else through it, you solve your own problem. I'm wondering if I do completed and we do dot value, if that would make that blue. V-A-L-U-E. A-L-U-E, if I could type. And it didn't work. Okay, fair enough. I surrender. I struggle with this. I don't know how many hours trying to get this stupid thing to work, and it just didn't want to work. All right, so in any event, the reason that's going on here is, like I told you before, it was a table. Choices bring back a table. So now I'm doing the lookup. And so I'm saying, okay, I need to look up what's going on. And you saw the table. When I had this choices and we looked at the table of choices, remember the only column, the column name was value. That's why I'm using value here, because through looking at the IntelliSense, through looking at this, you always got to look at your data type, and you always got to see what's coming back. In order to solve the problem, you got to know what the data is coming back, because if you know what the data is, you know enough at least to be able to program around it. And so what I'm doing is programming around that problem where it was a table. I'm looking up, I'm passing in the choices, I'm passing in all of this information. However, what I'm then doing is I'm saying is I want to bring back the value of this column where it equals, and then I had to know what the values are. So in this case, I would have done 101 because we were looking at completed earlier if we were trying to fix this down here. And then at that point, I'm saying, okay, if this value column that's inside of the choices table, which is this value column from this table, equals 100 or 101 or whatever, and then after the lookup, right? So I've got the lookup. That means it's either a yes or a no. And so if it is a yes, then I have to return the value from the lookup. In order to return just the value, after I did the lookup function, you have to type in another dot value. And you might be so confused. Why do I need this here? This was the last piece of the puzzle. It drove me bonkers. And it was because this item is looking for the value that's returned from this option set, looking for the value in this option set. And so then I did dot value so that this return is what's being compared to in the switch statement. And if that matches up or is true, then I can specify all my colors that I had within this crazy color scheme here. So this is a hellacious problem to solve. It took me several hours of just pulling my hair out trying to figure this one out because I wasn't going to let this one rest, but I finally got it working. And anyway, this is the troubleshooting steps of the joy of Power Apps. But once you figure it out, it's like a huge victory. I'm hoping to save you the hair pulling exercise that I had, but in any event, this is how you solve this crazy and ridiculous problem with this particular option set for a choice that's bound to the table, that's not using global choices. Global choices are a little bit easier. The syntax would be similar, but I wouldn't have, per se, maybe this portion of the code that's in there. It would look a little bit cleaner, but this got really gnarly because of the way that it was. Anyway, I hope this solves this problem for somebody. If it does, drop me a message in the comment. I'd love to know if this worked for you. All right, thank you. Have a great day.